How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks
Awesome.
so much for joining us as we host today Waddle's session. We're going to be chatting about all the stuff you didn't learn in Baby 101. So I think just for everyone who's watching, do you want to do a little intro on who you are, and then yeah, we'll get started from there.
Absolutely. Pleasure to be here, Jennifer. Good to see you again. And for everyone who is tuning in, a pleasure to see and interact with everyone electronically. My name is Anand Rajani. I'm a neonatologist, so I am a pediatrician who has subsequently gone on and specialized just in critically ill newborns and babies. So I am a baby expert, so to speak. Mostly spend my time caring for very sick newborns, though also do occasionally get to take care of healthy newborns in specific situations. So I'm the chief medical officer of Woddle and am here to help provide and answer questions and talk with Jennifer a little bit about some of the things that you may not learn elsewhere that could be helpful.
Amazing. And I am Jennifer. I'm the director of marketing at Woddle and also a mom of a baby that has just hit the 16-month mark. So still feels fairly recent for a lot of these questions that we're going to be asking today. So these questions are actually coming from some of our product users. They're also coming from just the general social community, people asking these questions really popularly. If you have any additional questions, we're going to be doing a short Q&A at the end of our chat today. So go ahead and feel free to drop them in the chat. We'll have our team looking and maybe we'll answer one of your questions as well. So I do like to preface, as with all things, we do have a professional here, but we always say this is general education. If you need any actual professional information, please talk to your pediatrician or your doctor to get the help that you need in your specific case. So we're going to start with bringing home baby, life after the hospital. So they send you home with your baby. I remember being wheeled out and they were like, good luck to you. You get home with your little one, and what now? So diapering. I remember they gave me like a little sheet at the hospital. We had to check off how many diapers we're going through. Why are we tracking diapers? Why is that important?
Well, great. This is a good start. So, there's a very abrupt introduction to being a parent. All of a sudden, you're flung in and sort of made to do all of these things that, moments before you didn't have to do. And really, initially, what we're looking for with these babies is to make sure that they're making enough urine. All babies are actually born in a what we call fluid overloaded state. They are born to withstand waiting a little bit of time for milk letdown to occur in moms. And so it takes a while, as you all have discovered, for those of you who've already had a baby or will discover soon, that process can take 2 to 3 days. And in the meantime, what we want to do is use the diapers in order to assess the hydration status of that baby. So the typical rule of thumb is that within the first day, you should have one wet diaper. The second day, you should have two. And the third day, you should have three. And we're also looking to make sure that there is at least one early stool, which is made and filled with a bunch of bile salts. It's called meconium, and that looks very different, very foreign to any older person's stool in terms of color and consistency. It's very tarry and thick and dark. So these are things that help us understand the how the baby is doing overall, and that's why diapering and counting these diapers is so important in the first several days. Yeah.
Yeah, and that makes sense. We definitely added that as a feature in the Waddle. So no more paper checklists with your little lottery pencil at the hospital. And I know we have that as a feature in the app, so it makes sense why it's so important to track there. And then I think the kind of the next wild thing, the question we get a lot is in terms of weight. Like, why is baby weight so important? I know when my little one was born, they immediately were like, "Great, I'm patting all of the lovely things," and they're like, "We need to weigh your baby now." So why is that so key?
Right. Well, a great question, Jennifer. And something that we come up against a lot as pediatricians is we know that all babies are going to lose some weight. And typically they regain that weight by about 2 weeks of life. And so in that interim period, we're just trying to assess whether the intake is sufficient and whether they're coming back up and recovering from that nadir. So it is totally normal, acceptable, and okay for a baby to lose weight. And as that milk letdown occurs after the first 3 days, we should then start to see, hopefully over time, the weight is starting to increase. And so for those where there's concerns about how much milk a baby may be getting, Waddle, for example, has the ability to do pre and post weights. So weigh your baby with their diaper on, breastfeed them, weigh them again, and that can give you an idea of what their intake has been. It can help make sure that they are steadily increasing. It's important to know that more and more in America, mothers are having babies slightly earlier. We're having a lot more what we call late preterm babies. Again, a full term baby is a baby that's born between 37 and 40 weeks. We're having more babies now that are born at 35 and 36 weeks. And those babies tend to have just a little bit more immaturity. And so their sucking and swallowing is not always so good and so mature. So getting in the appropriate amount of milk can be more challenging. And what that can lead to is excessive weight loss. And that excessive weight loss can lead to dehydration. Sometimes they can have more jaundice. Jaundice is eventually excreted by their liver through your stool, which is what makes it yellow. And so, if they're not taking in enough, that can cause issues there. And the rates of readmission for these babies is quite high, about 9% in babies that are around 36 weeks. So being able to track their weight carefully and make sure that it's going up helps us understand whether or not the intake is appropriate. So that's why Waddle can be helpful and something that's important to look out for when it comes to weight.
Yeah, I recall being at my lactation appointments consistently.
Yeah,
I remember after that first pediatric appointment, I didn't realize, as a first time mom especially, how much milk my baby was getting. I
yeah,
definitely did the hear dad hold baby before and after, and I'm told now that's wildly inaccurate as a way of catching baby's weight. But I remember frustrated, obviously hormonal on that first appointment, trying to figure out, is my baby gaining weight? I did find out my baby had jaundice in that time. And again, you're at home, you're like, what the heck? I've been home for a few days. What's happening?
yeah,
So it's really helpful, I think, to know that a lot of this is normal up front. Some things we can do to help, improve those health outcomes, like weighing baby before and after, so you can kind of keep track and have more productive conversations with the
yeah,
pediatrician. That said, I recall those early days, and I get this feedback a lot from the mom groups as well. So many tracking apps, all of the tracking
yeah.
apps, and the sheets of paper they give you at the hospital, and the workbooks from Baby 101. And so, I'd be curious to know what is kind of the purpose of tracking every little thing, especially in those early days with little one, and even a little bit after.
Right. So, great question, Jennifer. And I see several comments coming through the chat, which is fantastic. People reflecting on their own experience. Michael, in particular, asked, playing devil's advocate, should we have frequent check ins with our pediatricians? And I would say, Michael, absolutely. I think that's a really, really good comment you made. I think the whole idea here is awareness, if I could summarize it in one word. And that's what a lot of the tracking helps do, is just to make sure that the trend, the pattern is appropriate, and if you're tracking and something changes, or if things are not progressing the way they should, that should be your first clue and first indication to absolutely talk to your doctor. Every clinical situation is different. So that's why we're talking about these things generally speaking, but these are ways to know, hey, I need to reach out and know. What I see as a doctor who takes care of babies who even come back to the hospital who have weight loss or jaundice is that many times until a baby becomes quite sick or is quite stressed, that awareness isn't there because these tools have not been, you know, people aren't aware that these tools are available. So all of these tools have that ability to make sure that you know what the trajectory is. And most of the time it is going to be fine, and that is wonderful. But when it isn't, for you to know and to take timely action is really important. And so Waddle has that ability between its app, which is complementary to the scale, to give you that additional information where
Yeah,
desired.
And, like, to Rachel, I know I just saw those comments come through. Yeah, those appointments are really far apart. You would think that you're at the doctor every other day checking in with baby. I know I paid a ridiculous amount of money going to lactation consultants instead because the doctors were it was, like, 1 week out, and then they were like, "Great, see you next month." And in the meantime, you just kinda have to figure it out. I didn't even know that you could weigh baby anywhere else, but, you know, talking about our product, the Waddle, and our founder who went through a really similar situation with his little one, which is how this product came to be. He was like, "We need to build something that does everything. We need all of the apps in one because I cannot be switching 4 different apps to track sleep, to track food intake, breastfeeding, if you're combo or formula feeding, all of those things. Um, Also, the weighing and making baby as comfortable as possible. So we added all these features in to be able to simplify life. It's already it's already so overwhelming bringing home baby. Let's simplify as much as possible. So on that note, I recall and I know my husband did as well. Uh, is this normal? Being a regular part of our daily vocabulary, of our questions to each other and Dr. Google as well. So I'm sure you get that question a lot in your space as well. So we wanted to chat about the really unique AI parent coach that's in Waddle and kind of how that came to be in conversation. I know it came from a place of parents constantly asking, is this normal? So I would love to hear kind of
Right.
like your thoughts on having that featured in the app.
Yeah, so again, we do get asked a number of questions, even things about eye color and all sorts of other hereditary related things. So the pediatrician ends up being one source for those sorts of questions. However, if they are really non-medical, non-emergent questions, some general, very general, I want to emphasize that word, sorts of things can be asked to Waddle's AI coach, and they can provide one source of information for you. Because sometimes these appointments can be pretty short. Sometimes there's only so much time to ask these questions. So I think that is a nice tool that's been added to help allay parents' concerns and to double check against other things that you may know or have read about when it
Yeah.
comes to parenting.
Yeah, I remember constantly Googling, "Is it normal for my baby to hiccup?" How many burps should my baby have? We're on day 3, how many diapers should my baby have gone through? All of the questions. How much milk should I be producing? How much milk does my baby need to be intaking?
Right.
So we've gotten so much amazing feedback from parents being able to
Right.
ask the AI parent coach, especially as we talk about, our village of support and how that's changed so much from previous generations, even one generation apart. Um, I can
Right.
say personally, I don't know very many people that live very close to their family, um, or even some of their friends that they're able to call at 2 in the morning and say, "Hey, my baby only
Yeah.
slept an hour. Is that normal?" So we're so glad to be able to have that parent coach and also to kind of avoid the Dr. Google of it because I know there's blogs galore of everyone's individual experience. So just to provide a little bit um, of more unified information, of course, with the reminder from our parent coach always that if we sense it's a medical concern to contact your pediatrician, but really helpful for those generalized questions as well.
Right.
Um, so we're home with baby. It's now a day in the life. Baby sleep. Why are we tracking baby sleep? I would love to hear from you kind of why that's important, how that changes, especially, once we're home with baby.
Right. So, baby sleep super important. Yeah, many babies are very nocturnal. It seems that, they tend to be most active when you want to go to sleep. But, frequent sleeping in between as a newborn is very common, and that really does change as they get older. We do tend to see that babies end up having different sleeping patterns by 3 to 6 months, where many times they can sleep 10 to 12 hours at night. The reason that's not advisable early on is because early on, babies' stores of glucose, which is kept in their liver, is quite small. And so they need to be woken up and they need to feed regularly, but do need their sleep in between as well. And as they start to have those better sugar stores and they can have a fast, so to speak, by sleeping at night, having some naps during the day is important too. Because otherwise, in some cases, we do find, and again, this is my anecdotal experience from speaking to mothers that I talk to, that they can just have a harder time sleeping in the evening. So important to make sure that there is a good routine, uh, but that does change over time, where newborns will be sleeping very regularly and quite a lot, and that changes as they get to about 3 to 6 months. So
Yeah, and I found it so helpful on the tracking side just to start figuring out when it was time to drop naps. That was definitely a transition. Y'all don't know. Baby sleeps a lot at the beginning, and then suddenly we're dropping naps. What's happening? So
right,
really helpful to be able to see kind of over time, again, in one place, all of the sleep tracking. And also that I think was really fascinating for me is learning that every baby's sleep is quite individual. Some babies like or need to sleep more than other babies. Again, with the taking into consideration they need to wake up to eat and all that. But you could have a very very awake baby, or you could have a very sleepy baby, especially in those early days. Um,
right.
so on that note, we're talking about Waddle.
Mm.
We're talking about our founder's experience in creating this product. And when it came to sleep, I think he'll be the first to say it's rough with the little one, especially in those early days. So, he integrated a warmer, right, to keep baby warm. So we're not
Right.
shocking baby when we're doing these diaper changes, especially in the middle of the night. Um, White noise and music, as well as different types of night lights, and you can control kind of the brightness of it. So, as we're talking about, do you have any hot tips on helping to keep baby
Yeah.
asleep during those middle of the night changes?
Yeah, well, I mean, we use temperature to our advantage where we want to. So when you're trying to wake a baby up to feed, especially early on, undressing them a little bit to cool them down and help to wake them up is wonderful. Now, to that end, and as you're sort of intimating, Jennifer, when you want to change a diaper and you don't want a baby to wake up completely and spend quite a bit of time crying, in that case, using the warmer that we have on Waddle, for example, for a diaper change is incredibly helpful, and really can keep them soothed and from experiencing that incredible change in temp when they get unwrapped. So that is really nice. White noise is an interesting thing, and we there's a couple points that need to be made about white noise, and one is we think that it simulates what a baby may have heard or hear in the fetal environment, and that's why that's thought to be helpful. Now, we do need to be careful about the volume, so we should limit the volume to about 50 decibels. So this is equivalent to maybe a shower running in the background, that sort of noise level, just to give you an idea. So we got to make sure that we're not affecting hearing here and getting too loud with this white noise. So it should be relatively soft, but that can be a good simulation that tends to soothe many babies. Again, every baby is going to be different, but generally speaking, yes, and that is incorporated into Waddle so that it can help in that way. Yeah,
Amazing. And as we talk about, we brought home baby, we're getting used to things, although it's constantly changing with the dropping of the naps, the change in how much they're eating. Now they start to transition in foods. They're starting to
right.
eat some solids or some purees. There's sleep changes, some weight fluctuation. So I'm thinking about the products that I, went through that I purchased early on thinking, "Oh, I'm gonna need this for like years to come." And there were some that definitely lasted the test of time. I'm still in it with my baby's age, but there were some that I kind of just like blew through. And so I know our founder was really mindful of wanting to create something that would last, for a couple years or even into
Yeah.
having multiple kids. So as baby grows, we're tracking not just tracking milk now, so we start tracking solids. Can you kind of tell our audience a little bit about that and kind of the importance, or just give us an overview of those sleep and weight changes and food transitions and why we're still tracking not just in that first week, but even, further on into the process?
Yeah. So, you know, babies change so much. They're so dynamic in so many ways. I mean, it's developmentally is such a miracle to watch a baby grow up and turn into a child, proper child. There are things that are just going on in a dynamic way, and, their diet changes. They go from taking an all liquid diet between 4 to 6 months as they lose their tongue thrust reflex, as their neck muscles get stronger and they're able to sit up on their own. They begin to take purees and softer foods, and they sort of move forward. And in the process of doing that and transitioning where they're getting their calories from, and they also then become bipedal, meaning that they're starting to walk, they're starting to cruise on furniture. They end up burning a lot of calories. And a lot of kids will really lean out at that point in time, which is typically fine. But again, being able to track their weight and make sure that they are gaining weight properly is something that Waddle can help you do. Most babies, again, just to think about some uh, basic numbers, that most babies on average are around 7 pounds. They should double their weight by the time they're 6 months old, which is really cool to think about. So their weight is really increasing. We tend to see, want to see weight gain of about 5 to 7 ounces or so per week, I should say, more or less. And once they get to about a year, that's really when we start to see them lean out quite a bit. And sometimes we need to watch their weight if they're really leaning out and making sure that they're getting enough fat. Some people in that case will opt for whole milk for about a year in order to make sure that they have enough fat. And they don't need that fat to be fat. They actually need a lot of that fat for their brain. The insulation in the brain, which is called myelination, needs that fat. So many times we're looking at that and making sure that that weight is progressing well.
Yeah, so wild how quickly they grow. And also to me, I found it really surprising, again, as a first-time mom, how far apart the doctor's appointments go. As quickly as baby's growing,
Right.
I went to one of the top pediatricians in my area, and we had that first week appointment. We did a 1 month, and it was in that cadence of those 30 days. And as soon as baby hit 6 months, they were like, "Great, we'll see you in 3." And I was like, I have 90 days to figure this out on my own. No one's telling me if we're heading in the right direction. And we had those changes going of as baby started to pull to stand and move around. I recall being constantly panicked. So I really loved, being able to lean on my Waddle a little bit as kind of that healthcare companion for my baby to check in and make sure
Right.
everything was good. I saw a lot of questions in the chat, so I'll do a quick Q&A. For anyone that's asking, I do see constantly coming up, where can I get this product? What is it? We have pinned here. You can go to waddlebaby.com. We're also available on Amazon. But for everyone that is here currently, we have a special code that you can use to get $100 off of the product. We really feel this is such an important product to have at home as part of your kind of baby's at home healthcare system, in the same way that we talk about so many other amazing monitors for your little one. This really helps simplify the process. And, we are founded by parents for parents to help kind of build that village up. Anand here is actually part of our village as well. We ask him all of the questions about all of the baby things. But if anyone has any additional questions, feel free to drop it in the chat. If not, know that you can use Prego10 as a $100 off coupon code. It is for a very limited time, just during this conference. But it's been so great being able to see everyone share the same stressors I had as a mom. You're not alone. If you're a second, third, fourth, fifth time mom, I'm seeing in here, or if you're a first time one, all of the panic is normal. All of the questions are normal. And we're glad to be able to provide a little context here. Oh, well, congrats to everyone that's expecting. Yes, the space between doctor's appointments is absolutely unreal. We want to say thank you so much from Waddle. We will be around if you want to come visit our booth. I will be there with some of our team members to help answer any questions about the product or just chat if you want to chat about your journey. Thank you so much, Anand, and thank you so much, everyone, for watching.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Thanks to everyone who attended. And with thanking all of you, congrats to everyone.